Far, far away at the edge of the galaxy lays a planet made of crystals and filled with these wonderful creatures called Glams. They lived in harmony together with no care in the world, but their planet is nothing but a world of illusions. This whole planet was designed for the goddess to play. This goddess created the whole universe, but she wasn't allowed to interact with any of her creations. Just watch. She was so bored and lonely, so she made a world where she can play and creatures she can play with. The Glams. Now, what made these creatures so much different than the ones she already created? Well, the Glams weren't created with just the stars like the others, but with a bit of the goddess as well. That way, they can play with her and talk to her, because they are connected to her. So, she wasn't lonely anymore. It was great for a while, until she realized that always playing happy stories all the time was boring. She needed a bad guy, something that keeps the game fun and makes the story more interesting. So she started creating. But the goddess doesn't necessarily understand what makes things bad. She just told it to be. And it did. But it did it too well. It became way too uncontrollable for the goddess to handle. Since it's designed to be evil, the goddess has no power to stop it. And it eventually overpowered the Glams and destroyed their world. But luckily, the Glams were okay. They just lost their physical form temporarily. They were put to sleep until they landed to a more safer place. But when they did, they were different. They were not themselves. They were monsters. No matter how much the goddess tried to talk to them, they didn't respond. They just destroyed everything, like mindless creatures. They attacked everything. But suddenly, one of them stopped, and it was all because of a crystal. Why? Well, the goddess knew that the Glams couldn't handle themselves in other worlds, so she made these crystals to keep them stabilized. In fact, that's where the crystals the entire planet was made out of, so the Glams can be themselves. So when the planet was destroyed, the crystals shattered around the universe like the Glams. So if the Glams interacted with them, even a little bit, they can be stabilized, but not fully. They can keep their minds, but not their bodies. But they can still exist in this world, in a much smaller and cuter form. But that's not all. Thanks to the crystals, the Glams can connect with anybody who wears them. And with that connection, they can finally understand each other, realizing that the Glams just needed help. So with the help of the other users, these guardians, they can not just protect the world from these uncontrollable Glams, but also save them. Now, what are guardians? Well, they're just normal people who found a connection with a Glam and decide to protect the world and help the Glams. They have been here for years. The Guardians always change every few generations. They're not immortal, but the Glams are. So their power gets passed down to a new chosen Guardian that the previous one picked themselves. But before they get their Glams, they must meet the goddess herself. Because the Guardians are connected with the Glams, they too can talk to the goddess themselves, which makes her so happy. She gets to talk to so many interesting people each time, gets a new friend, gets to know them, see the lives through their eyes. It was always exciting. And for each generation, she meets a new guardian and judge them if they are qualified to be a guardian. But sadly, she doesn't pick just anybody. You have to be real special to be a guardian, because not everybody is a good guardian. There are always a bad bunch of people who would use the Glams for selfish means. So the Guardians would have to work hard to take the Glams away from these people. But there has been some cases, due to desperation for more power, these people would fuse themselves with Glams without the crystals. And it always ended poorly. No living thing should be a beacon for the Glams. But can a Glam be out in their true form without going berserk? Well, yes. But they need to hold a whole lot of crystals to do so they don't go crazy. Most of the Glams want to do things their own way, living more free, find their own way without a user. But if they will need one, if necessary, they would. But they will have to pick it. They refuse to have someone else pick for them. Now we know where the Glams came from. But how do they work? Like I said before, users need crystals to connect with the Glams. Each Glams are different. They still have their standards like super flight, strength, speed, durability, but each of them has their own abilities of themselves. Like the Pegasus gives the users the power to control storms, while the unicorns give the users the power of pure magic. As for their weapons, it depends on the users. While Tormenta has a feather wand, other Pegasus users would have had a sword or knives. As for the appearance for the users, it once again depends on the users themselves. The transformations can give the users a chance to change themselves completely with no limitation. They could change the length of their hair, the color of it, the color of their eyes, how their body look, the size of their body, like how tall they can be, how small they can be. They can even change the users' genders. Having Glams can be a miracle for users by giving them the ability to change everything to do with their body and be who they want to be. Imagine someone who can never walk and they get a Glam. Now they can walk. Or someone who doesn't have an arm, or someone who couldn't see. These Glams give them the ability to have those. As soon as you disconnect with them, you're back to who you were before. A lot of users want to keep that inside, so they try to stay permanently. But it drains the person's body. It's a great blessing to connect with the Glams, but it's very dangerous to use because the Glams can slowly drain the user's powers, their life force. It should never be used for long term. A couple of days is fine if they need to, but for your entire life? No, never. So a lot of people need to settle at what they have. Sad, really, but it's also nice to have a chance to be someone you always wanted to be, right? Glams are mostly safe and cute creatures. That mostly means no harm. Some can be mischievous, others very lovable. But most of all, they just want to have a safe place to live. And that's about it for the Glams. But what about the big bad? It's not important for now, but it's still out there and it will come back. But for now, the Guardians need to worry about themselves. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoy it. I also hope you enjoy your holidays and New Year's. I see you next time and a Happy New Year. Bye!